That way you don't miss stuff. So what I'll do is, say if I want 3 months or 6 months, I put in sold, single family, time frame, put in the address, zoom out. On residential lender stuff, I'll zoom out to a mile, because that's a Fannie Mae Freddie Mac guideline. Don't go past a mile or you'll get flagged. Now, I will be aware of my radius search going across borders, across railroad tracks or highways or across school districts. I'll be aware of that, but I'll do that. So what I like doing is a big view and then go down. And then ideally you start narrowing it down to your apples to apples. I mean, some appraisers will go in there and say the subject property is 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,500 square feet. Some will just go in there and put in 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,400 to 1,600, say 6 months. Because what they're doing is they're going right in and saying, let me find the sales as fast as I can that are exactly like the subject. I like going big because it gives you an overview of the market. And I will also look at the statistical data for each of the market areas. The little numbers like Willow Glen and Campbell, and you just do it by that. So I take a big view and I narrow it down. Because as I do that search, it gives me a better understanding of the overall market and what's going on. Did that answer the question? Okay. Yes?
What is your best source for market data that you use?
MLS Listings. It's the number one. Because everything else, county data is just, it's just very basic. All that really does for lender work, all that does is confirm a sale. And it confirms bedroom and bath and square footage. But like I said, it depends on what county you're in. San Mateo's county data, their square footage, it never seems to match. Yeah. And Santa Clara is pretty good at the square footage data. And once again, that's another lender requirement as opposed to an appraiser's practice. So when I make a value, when I'm trying to figure out the value, I'm modeling the market, trying to figure out the typical buyers and sellers, and seeing what they give value for. I always use this example. Up in Daly City, they have houses that are 2-story, but the main floor is up top and there's a garage underneath. And behind the garage, there used to be big open spaces, I guess, and a lot of people have finished them off and they're gorgeous and everything. Whether or not they're permitted, it's hit or miss up there. Way back, had to be, I don't know, maybe 10 or 12 years ago, I would go up there, and I think it was Countrywide. And I guess I shouldn't use names. No. And the experience that I had was I would go up there and I would use my appraisal procedure or practice and say the market participants are giving these areas value. And their underwriting guideline was no permit, no value, which a lot of banks still do. And I guess it's for insurance. If it burns down, it can't be built back to the way it was. So then you actually overvalue it because they can't build it back to what you valued it as. But as an appraiser for that, because you got to remember our estimate of value is as of a specific date. It's the effective date of value. So that's what my value is good for, is that specific date. And people always use the example of, buildings in downtown or in New York City were worth something on September 10th, and then they were worth different value on September 11th, 2001. So all appraisals are done for an effective date. And you guys are used to that because that's, you guys do it as usually the sales date. Yeah.
I have a question.
Sure.
Do you also consider extension in a house with permit or not having a permit?
No, that's exactly, trying to make it clear, that's exactly what I was trying to explain, is that I will look at it, and if it's done in a good workmanlike quality and it's like almost indistinguishable between the original part of the house, market participants will give it value. People will say, sure, I'll buy it, that's nice and everything, but lenders won't give it value because there's not a permit. Yeah, there's no permit, and that's huge right now. It's like one of the more simple problems you have when you go out and do a house is you go and measure it, and then you look at the county records, and if there's a difference beyond 100 square feet, you have to, I always ask the homeowner, it's like, well, did you add anything on? And if they say yes, I'll say, do you have the permits for it? One of the biggest things I've done, and this, I only do it for my good lender client, is I spend a lot more time in the building department than I used to. And once again, if you have a sale and a listing, I I would go get all that information before the appraiser ever shows up, because it will be a red flag that jumps up, is if your county data square footage does not match the house. It's a red flag for an appraiser, because they'll just stop and say, okay, what was added, what was changed. Same thing if your bedroom and bath count don't jive with county records. It's a red flag. And the reason it's a red flag is the lenders. Like if a house had been a 4-bedroom, 2-bath, and then the owners turned it into a 3-2, and they didn't have permits, and if it was litigation, I would make note of it and say done without permits, but the market participants still, give this value for a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. I would comp it out to 3-bedroom, 2 baths, but a lender would say, get the permits. They don't like anything without permits, which, like I said, I understand, because they're afraid that if it burns down, they lend it on something that can't be built back to what it was, and that's why they do it, which is understandable because they're the ones taking the risk.
What I find a lot of times is that, like, if it's a new development that buyers go in, their first time buyers of a new home, and they say, okay, well, gosh, add the loft, it's over the garage, just put a bonus room over. The footprint originally with the builder was a different square footage, but then 6, 7, 8, 10 years later they go to sell the house. County records still reflect the basic footprint of what the builder was originally going to put there, and the builder never went back and put in the correct actual amount.
Yep.
And as listing realtor, like clients have refied, and they have appraisals that show it's taped out as a higher.
Yep. No, those are the catchy ones. Those are the ones that are tricky, especially because I've run into those where it's like, oh yeah, it was built 10 years ago, and it was going to be this, it was going to be Model A, but then they changed it to Model B, and they never bothered to change it at county. It's like, yeah, those are a pain. And all you can do as the appraiser or the realtor is, you got to get all the documentation you can so you can approach it, because yes, the banks and the lenders will go, hold on, it doesn't match the county records. They don't like anything that doesn't match the county records. And if it doesn't match the county records, they want to see the permits for what was changed. Yeah.
Can you repeat us?
Oh, sorry. Yes. I'm getting way off track.
I think there are questions that were on here, so.
Yeah. Oh, these are the sales comparison red flags. I was saying these are some of the areas that I always focus on. Market and neighborhood not clearly defined. We kind of went over. I'll go through these. We've gone over a lot of this, and that is, once again, make sure the appraiser knows what market they're in. One of the easiest examples of that is school district. And I know it's a Fannie Mae Freddie Mac guideline, but it is also a common sense guideline. You're going out a mile away or a mile and a half, more than likely you're outside of the subject's neighborhood. And you're changing. The simple explanation there is, it's like I said, going from one city to another and changing school districts.
I have a question.
Oh, yes.
Going back to the county records, not matching the records of the actual house.
Mm-hmm.
That is my house. When I purchased my house, of course there was an appraisal, 4 bedrooms, 2 baths. The county record shows 3-2. And I said to the appraiser, I did not add anything here. I was the second owner of this house. Nothing was added. If you look at the house to the left, exactly same floor plan, and the county records have the correct number of bedrooms. My square footage is only 1,400. Mine is 1,600. So both the square footage and the number of bedrooms, they are not correct. So when I purchased the house in 2011, they actually based on the appraisal, not on the county records, the way I look at it.
Okay. Did the appraiser go to the building department and just pull the file?
I do not know.
Okay. Because that's all you can do on that. I've run into cases where there's just mistakes and there's no record of it ever being changed. So then as an appraiser, you just document what you did in the report. And so typical lender deals or sales deals, appraisers don't usually have time to do that. But with banks, that just throws a big wrench in the works. So as an appraiser, what I would have to do is go down to the building department and literally ask them for the file. Because some departments have it back computerized, and then after you get back so far, it goes to microfiche. So you have to actually ask for it, and some of them you got to pay for it.
In reporting, or that could be an error, or there.
No, that's what I'm saying. There could just be a flat-out error that it was never changed. But the only way you can deal with it, for example, a lender, and the way I've dealt with it, is you have to document it. I mean, literally would say in a report, I would say, went to the building department. I'd get the building department's person I dealt with, their phone number. I said, I went and I pulled the file. In a lot of cities, it's like, then I had to bill for $25 because they charged me $25 to pull the file. And then you put in all the permits that are in there, in the report. Like I said, if you get that hung up, that's what you have to do. Because I'm not, it doesn't surprise me that you could have a house that does not match what the county records has. Because when the builder, when they built it, they changed it.
So when I sell the house, they should base this also on.
I would get all your, yeah, I would go to the county, I would go to the building department and pull your file. Yeah, so you just have it there available. Yes?
So for the sales comparison approach,
Uh-huh.
you also list the income capitalization, which means you will consider the rental as well into one of the calculation, am I correct?
Yes and no.
You only use it.
For 2 to 4s, I do, yeah. But for single-family houses, if the typical buyer or neighborhood is made up of owner-occupied
Sales supply.
people, owner-occupants, then it's usually not enough market data to determine a gross rent multiplier, which you have to do the income approach.
So that's why you put income capitalization there as just one of the items may be considered
Yeah.
as